Welcome everyone to Make It Make Sense with Monique Pressley. I'm your host, Monique Pressley, and as always, I am so thankful for you being here and joining us today. Our pledge to you is to do exactly what the name of this show says, make it make sense. We are dialing down the noise and the rhetoric and the bickering that has become mainstay in our mainstream media, in our cable news. We're getting rid of all of that and dialing it down to the questions that need answers, the who, the what, the where, the when, the why, of the more complicated, complex topics of our lives, so that you can get the information you need to live a better life and to thrive. Now, I tell you all the time, you know, we've had expert after expert extraordinaire on here over the past few months since we started. And today is no different. I mean, today we really are upping it a notch for sure with our guest. And our guest is none other than John Hope Bryant. He is the chairman, the founder, the CEO of Operation Hope. He is the head of his own personal company, Bryant Group Ventures. He has received every award you can think of. He has taken all of us on our backs for decades in ushering in the very needed conversation about financial literacy, not just in the Black community, but in this country and in the world. He has talked with and counseled numerous presidents. He has created, all y'all who got that PPP, you owe this one that's about to come on here. This is the extraordinary John O'Brien. Thank you for that, among so many other things. But I am appreciative that he is giving us this time today, and I can't wait to get into this conversation. So let's put some hearts on the screen and welcome our host. Welcome with me as host, our special guest, John Hope Bryant, the chairman.
Hey, young lady, how are you?
I am much better now. My help is here.
Hey, no, you don't need any help. You're doing all good all by yourself.
Well, you know, the whole goal for this show is to really give people as much information as possible. And that is why when I was talking to my beloved booking producer, Jackie, you were at the top of our list immediately, because it's your life's work. You know, I mean, you don't have to do it. You're fine all by yourself too. So I know you understand. We perish for the lack of knowledge, and I don't want anybody to perish on my watch. So having someone like you means so much. Thank you for everything you've just done for my family personally. I texted actually my ex-husband this morning, who is a fan of yours, and I'm like, John O'Brien is my guest. He was like, oh, tell him I said hello, tell him I said thank you. And so just, you know, our children's lives are more secure because you've been speaking common sense to us and financial literacy to us for so long. But I want to start with you with a quote of yours and hoping that you can explain it. You said the definition of freedom in the 21st century is self-determination. What does that mean?
Well, first of all, I commend you to being a modern family with good common sense, to have a good working relationship with your ex-husband. I assume you guys have children, maybe a presumption, but 3 children. That's a beautiful thing. The kids should not be in the middle of a cultural war, should not be in the middle of a family squabble. The kids should not be pitted mom against dad or dad against mom. Kids have enough problems, particularly if you're a Black kid and a brown kid. You already have enough challenges. You're born on probation in America. You got to be twice as smart, twice as intelligent, twice as well-dressed, get up twice as early, sit twice as late, and deliver twice as good. You don't need to be hammered with mom and dad using you as a ping pong ball. So I commend you to that, and I get so tired of people talking about baby daddies and baby mamas. No, it's father and mother. No kid wants to go to school and say that's my baby daddy or baby mom. They want to feel like I am somebody. So the fact that you just have that relationship and you just walk right past it as if it was normal, because it should be normal, is a beautiful thing. And I think that before I answer your question, let me say this: we're sitting in a moment in history. And history does not feel historic when you're sitting in it.
Yeah.
It just feels like another day. But that doesn't mean the moment, in fact, is not historic. So everything we're doing in this period I call the third reconstruction, between 2020 when the pandemic started, right through George Floyd, right through the questions of our democracy, the largest pandemic since the Spanish flu, the most Americans who've died from anything. Actually, we had 9/11, basically deaths every day for almost a year and a half. People don't think about that. The fact that this could only be God, not delivering the pain, but basically saying, I've given you guys a chance to correct these problems on your own. You've kicked the environment issues down the road. You kicked the social justice issues down the road. You kicked Black folks down the road, literally kicked them. You've not done the right thing. You've now hired as your chief executive officer somebody who doesn't want to be, who hates public service and hates everybody but himself. And we know who I'm talking about. That was sort of the epitome, and he would have got reelected if the pandemic and all that stuff hadn't happened.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he would have got reelected, and we'd be a banana republic today. So in some ways, I think the universe was interceding to get us a reset and put on the right track, because rainbows only follow storms. Now, this intersects with your question. Where are we really, as Dr. King said in his last book, where do we go from here? I think that if Dr. King was alive today, he'd be moving from civil rights, which is race and the color line, moving in the streets, to civil rights, which is class and poverty, a movement that's waged and won in the business suites. This new movement.
That's what got him killed for sure, right?
He was focusing. He had pivoted toward the money. He had shifted toward the money. He had realized there was more poor whites in America than poor anybody else. Little known fact. And he had moved toward the color green, not the color black or white or red or blue, color green, and was talking about eradicating poverty for all people. And unfortunately for him, as you know, because you're a historian, he talked about redistribution of wealth. And when you start talking about taking the top 3%'s money and giving it away to everybody else, and he never made it. Basically, I think the powers that be just said, you'll never make it to your first march on this in Washington, D.C. A Nobel Peace Prize winner trying to mobilize all poor people on the redistribution of wealth agenda cannot stand. And I think that him and JFK and John F. Kennedy, that's all part of the same effort to thwart a historical narrative. Now, let's get back to your question, which is easier to answer. I like math because it doesn't have an opinion. And the math of the fact of the matter is, if I can't solve what's in your heart. I can't make you love me if you hate me. I can't solve racism and discrimination, but I can solve my credit score. And I know this sounds crazy, but if I move credit scores in underserved neighborhoods 100 points, because all our problems are in a 500 credit score neighborhood.
Yeah.
George Floyd was murdered in a 500 credit score neighborhood. All the murder, mayhem, and drugs is in a 500 credit score neighborhood. All the single-parent households are in a 500 credit score neighborhood. All the check cashers, payday loan lenders, rent-to-own stores, title lenders, liquor stores, pawn shops preying on us are in 500 credit score neighborhoods. All the gangbangers are in 500 credit score neighborhoods. All the murder and mayhem, all the police brutality, it's all in 500 credit score neighborhoods. So when I say if you can move the credit score 50 to 100 points, which is what Operation Hope is doing for free, by the way, if you do that neighborhood by neighborhood, block by block, you literally transform the neighborhood and everything with it. It's a trending indicator. It's not about the credit score. It's a trending indicator for everything else. Hope, well-being, engagement, financial literacy, capital access to credit, cost of capital, ability to become a homeowner, small business owner, entrepreneur, stabilize families, higher self-esteem. So the definition of freedom in the 21st century is self-determination, because that's where we left off in the second Reconstruction. We had physical freedom. We had the right to vote. We learned how to to cash a check, work for somebody else in the civil rights movement. But now we have to pivot to the thing that makes you free, really, which is ownership, opportunity, writing the check, not just cashing it, becoming a homeowner, a small business owner, an entrepreneur, a wealth creator, a mover of your own destiny. And you can only do that through self-determination, but you cannot self-determine yourself unless you understand how the free enterprise and capitalist system works, which then brings us back to this conversation. We are not dumb and we're not stupid. We are brilliant. It's what we don't know that we don't know that's killing us, what we think we know. Yeah. So where's the playing field been leveled, Monique? sports. Give you 3 examples: sports, professional sports,
entertainment,
creative arts.
Yeah.
And I just talked to my man Killer Mike today, Chris Tucker last night. My boys, I love them, so I love all that, right? And then in politics, rules are published, playing field is level, so we succeed. But free enterprise, capitalism, economics, and opportunity, there's no memo. There are no rule books, and we didn't get it after the Civil War.
There's a memo. We just didn't get it.
Well,
we're not on the distribution list.
Amen. And I wrote a book called The Memo right before my last one to try to give us the memo on how the system works. So I gave a long answer only because the question you just asked is pregnant with everything else inside of it. We're in a historic moment, and we have got to understand, to quote Malcolm X, we've been bamboozled, we've been tricked, we've been fooled. And to the extent that folk get us emotional and distracted by things that really don't matter, and some things that we can't control, like racism in somebody else's heart, you're missing out on the opportunity on things like you mentioned, like PPP, which is the only time in the history of this government that they gave you money.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean billions and billions and billions and billions and dang near free. If it wasn't given to you, lending to you at ridiculously low terms and interest rate. And so we are in this historic moment, and I'm just concerned that we're going to flub it if we're going to stumble, and we're going to wake up one day saying, why didn't we take advantage of the lowest interest rates in the history of the modern world? Social justice movement focused on economics, which allows us to access capital. People, mainstream America, who actually feel sorry for us in a way that is useful, which is access to opportunity. And the fact that we are internet connected, smart as heck, work our tails off, natural hustlers in a positive way.
I had a full disclosure. I've listened. There's one interview that Bishop Jakes did of you that I've probably listened to like 3 times.
Literally, he texted me. Literally, while we're doing this interview, he texted me. So I'll tell him you uttered his name.
I've sat under his ministry. He's interviewed me. I've interviewed him. I've been to every conference. I hate that I missed ILS this year. I was working. A client had me stuck in a place that was not Charlotte. And you know, he has been a great encourager and inspiration of mine. But during the pandemic, he sat down with you and talked to you about your book, about Up to Nothing. But it was in the wake of all that was going on, with Big George's death, with everything that happened. And I consult with Ben Crump, so I was dealing with the family. And we just last year were going on the Hill, and we had all of these meetings where supposedly something was going to get done, right, about police reform. So we're in Senator Scott's office. I'm sitting next to Lindsey Graham. That's why I laugh, and I keep going back to your interview with Bishop Jakes, because you both talked about the necessity of doing business with people. It's not about who you like. You do things to get them done. Right. But of course, we walked away, and there's no bill. You know, there's no George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, and there's not going to be one. Let me be clear. Right. Well, there's going to be maybe some executive orders. We might see something before the anniversary coming in the next couple of weeks. But I raised that because it circled me right back to you, because people will be focusing on the racism. I'm one of them. I'm people. Yeah. And people will be talking about the racism and the need for civil rights and the need for advocacy and the need for activism. And then there will be people on the opposite end of the spectrum saying, there's no racism. Look at people like John O. Bryant. If there was racism, how could Oprah be successful? Look at Tyler. And so there are these extremes.
That's racism.
And I see you as somewhere in the middle, saying what you described in that interview. The racism is like rain. Pick your umbrella and wade through it. But in the meantime, we should be doing what you just said. If we're going to march, if we're going to be in the streets, it's not to get rid of a hog tie only. It's for economic and financial literacy. How do we get that message across, Chairman Bryant, that while we're marching, we got to be marching with our money sense?
Yeah. So first of all, it's John, not Chairman Bryant, and thank you for the respect. Your mama raised you well, clearly. Look, we are depressed. Let me just say it. Slavery, Ambassador Andrew Young turned 90 last month. He said this. He was on that balcony when Dr. King was assassinated in Memphis. To live in a system of free enterprise and not to understand the rules of free enterprise must be the very definition of slavery. So how can you walk down a neighborhood street in every neighborhood in this country that we love and we live in and we grew up in, and see a check casher next to a payday loan lender, next to a rent-to-own store, next to a title lender, next to a liquor store, next to a pawn shop, and think that's normal because we're depressed, right? Because we've allowed ourselves to accept that these things which are completely abnormal are somehow normal. That preying on us is preying on our lack of hope, on our lack of financial literacy, on the fact that we have a surviving mentality. I put in my last book, Up From Nothing, there's 3 mentalities: a surviving mentality, which is really about what you're against, not what you're for; a thriving mentality, which is creating a middle class. It's a getting middle class, getting a raise, getting a job, getting access to a country club, getting access to a fraternity or a sorority, getting access to the water fountains, getting access. It's getting. Okay, great. But then there's the winning mentality, which is about building. And a building mentality is completely, utterly, absolutely different. And we have been robbed of not just physical access. We've been robbed of our confidence, of our self-esteem, of our self-belief. I think that 70% of Black America is clinically undiagnosed depressed. And I say that with the greatest of love. But why do we go to church? We're unique churchgoers. Everybody knows this. My mama did it. Grandparents did it. We go there. It's like going to the club. It's a spiritual club. We will dance ourselves, because that is part of the depression that we're working off. We don't go to see a therapist. We don't go see a psychologist. We don't go to see a shrink. We don't want to admit that we're crazy. Everybody's crazy, by the way. What are you hiding from? If you went through what we went through and you don't admit you're nuts, you're nuts. So we have got to first acknowledge that there's a problem. Number one, just acknowledge. But a saint is a sinner that got up. Over the round and through it, you're going to get to it. You cannot have a rainbow without a storm first. We are not only survivors, which is what we've been stuck on, protesting against police brutality, against racism. We will spot racism a mile and a half away, blindfolded with earmuffs on. We are experts at spotting what we are against. But you cannot have tens of thousands of organizations just focused on what you're against philosophy in a country, in a world based on what you're for. Yeah. This country and this world is a capitalist environment. Even slavery was about money. So it starts with conversations like this, where you love your people enough to tell them the truth. It's like raising your children. You have to say to yourself, if you're going to be a good parent, you know what? I'd like you. I want you to like me, but you better respect me.
That's right.
And I'd rather you respect me and learn to like me than like me and never respect me. And if you can't get to that point, you can't raise children. You can't raise children because you end up coddling them, right? Versus my mom, I was more afraid of my mother than the gangs in my neighborhood. And I remember my mother told me, she spanked me. We call it beating. We call it a lot of things today, but she spanked me, took off. She asked me to go in the backyard and get a switch. I brought a little twig. She went and brought half the tree from the backyard, and she spanked me, Monique, and I told her I was going to call the police because the school told me that a parent can't spank a child anymore. Well, really, they said you can't beat a child, but I extended the definition. My mother said, "That's all right, baby. You tell them you call the police. You pick up the phone and call the people with the red light for me, the police, and the blue light for you, the morgue. Because I brought you in this world, and I sure enough will take you out of this." And you know what? I got religion real quick. Yes. My mother cared enough about me to tell me the truth, to go to jail for me, to die for me, because she wasn't going to bring no punk in this world. Yes. So we have got to start these hard conversations because we are brilliant. Look at what we've done with nothing. Yeah. Nothing. Yeah. And we have still killed and become the most prominent people of color in the world. Yeah. We've impacted every culture. Where do you think rock came from? Not you, I know you know this. Rock, country music, all this stuff came from our music. Everybody's trying to be cool like us. So look, I'm just saying we need to take this brilliance that we've attached to the creative arts and all things we talked about, and now become capitalists. Can I read a statistic to you real quick?
Of course.
Since the mass immigration some 100 years ago, Jews have become the richest religious group in American society. Mm-hmm. They make up only 2% of the U.S. population, but 25% of the 400 wealthiest Americans, and this was October 2011. That's 12 years ago. Mm-hmm. That number's got nothing but up. So wait a minute. They're 2% of the population. They've been enslaved. They were targeted for extermination as recently as 1945. They're still being messed with today. Yeah, they're not black, but they can relate.
Yes.
But still they rise because they pivoted to the one thing they can control, which is what we're talking about here, which is a focus on my brain and my access to capital and credit and opportunity and becoming wealthy, which then levels a playing field on starting their own schools, funding elected officials, changing public policy. You don't need to go beg somebody. Israel is one of the smallest countries in the world, but no one messes with them.
Right. Absolutely.
So we begging too much. It's my short version.
Right. And you don't find that many multi-billion-dollar civil rights organizations for the Jews. They focused on what they absolutely could change. It was interesting to me that you said that we are all living depressed. We've had quite a few, Dr. Tama and others who have come on the show since I started, who were talking about depression in the Black community and how, of course, it's a scourge. You know, we don't want to talk about it, we don't want to admit it. But at the same time, they know that racism itself is embedded in our DNA, that the depression mm-hmm. is passing through the genes mm-hmm. with birth. And so that's why the Reparations Commission, part of what they were trying to get for us was therapy, because we need to get healthy. But while we're trying to get healthy, and I know I'm leaning on you for time, I know you have in your book, because I want to give people a place to start. You know, if your credit score is 500 and a half, and you do not own a home, and you are working a job, and do not have a business, and you might not even be ready for the 5 pillars of success right. of John Hope Bryant. You need the 5 pillars of how do I get out of this ditch?
Right.
What does that look like?
Yeah. So before I'm gonna give you some tools, I'm gonna do a giveaway exclusively to you. I just got inspired to do it on this call, and thank you for doing all of it. But let me just say this for anybody who's maybe watching this, don't know my whole story. Say, oh, this dude, he's privileged, this and that. Why is he talking all this mess? Let me be very clear about this. I grew up in Compton, California, in South Central LA. My mother and my father had a high school education. My mother walked with cap and gown at age 62 to get her high school equivalency. Okay, we lost everything when I was 5 years old. My mom and dad divorced when I was 5. I saw my first murder when I was 7. My second murder when I was 9. I grew up in the hood, DA-HOD. Got a high school diploma, equivalent called a GED, a good enough diploma. I don't want anybody saying, now, yeah, I've got honorary PhDs and I've gone to Harvard and got all blah, 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 honored presidents. But I came from the poorest neighborhoods in this country, and December accessed the largest access to capital deal for a Black business in real estate in a decade, $200 million deal on my own signature. No government assist, no nothing, just my own signature in December. And yesterday I paid 7 figures in income tax. I won't say the exact number, but I paid not my income, my tax number was 7 figures to the state and the federal. I was happy to do it because that means that I'm making money and building wealth. Glory. But that's in my credit score. I can't do it now because I'm on the phone. My credit score, I put it on my IG, is 800 now, but it used to be 300. So I don't want anybody to say, this dude I can't relate to. All I did was do the work. All I've done is do the work. And what I want to do now is say, for your folks who are watching you send me a list of 25 folks. I'm going to give them an autographed signed copy of this book. I've got 5 books I've written. This is the most important one I've ever written, Up From Nothing. We'll give 25 signed copies to anybody that you identify who's following you, watching you, for whom you're impressed with. Number one. Number two, we're doing $25,000 packages of services and licenses through 1 Million Black Business Initiative, our partnership with Shopify. Anybody who comes through you, the first 25 folks who come through you, we'll give them a $25,000 package to start an e-commerce business, a free license for Shopify for 6 months, I believe it is, free website, domain name, all the support services to become an e-commerce business, and all the training and support tied to that. Number three, if you're watching this and you know $60,000 a year or less, congratulations, you got them a check. Tell them about the Earned Income Tax Credit. My Hope Financial coaches will do it for free for you now. If you make $60,000 a year or less, the government owes you a check. You make $35,000 a year and they have 3 children, they owe you $6,700. If you have never heard of EITC, congratulations, it's retroactive for 3 years. If I'm going too fast, go and watch this on replay on her page. I'm telling you, this is gold. If you make 35 grand, I'm gonna slow it down. You have 3 children. The government owes you about $18,000 cash, plus the child tax credits from the stimulus bill during the pandemic was $3,000 per kid. Cash. That's 9 grand. When has your child ever made you money? So now you got almost $30,000 because you watched this show. It didn't cost you a dime. You don't pay it back. And I want you to get that money and put it on a down payment on a house. Because 41% of black folks own a home compared to 74% of their white counterparts. That's ridiculous. The number one way to build wealth is home ownership. So I want to get some tangible things that people could do and use during the course of our conversation that they can get their hands around, so that no matter how cynical you might be, how angry you might be, there's something I just said or you said that people have to go, well, he's made that so easy. She's made that so easy. Let me at least go do that. And once you have a win, by the way, we'll move your credit score 54 points in 6 months, free. Call my Hope Financial coaches. We'll do it for free. There's an error on your credit score. If you're watching this and you haven't checked your credit in 2 years, I guarantee you there's an error in your credit report. We'll get it off. It'll pop your credit score at 30 points. Take your life back.
Yeah. I'm blown away. So guys, everything that's being offered, you're gonna DM me as soon as we drop. So it's not gonna be the YouTube folks. It's only gonna be from the people who were on here live. And I am so appreciative. I'm myself blown away because I've seen people's lives change with just one of these steps. So where do they start? They're digging out of a hole. Where do they start?
You start by saying, I am somebody. You start by saying, I am God's child, and these fingerprints are unique in the world. Stop trying to be like somebody else and be like you. You then say, based on that, I am self-esteem, I am self-worth, I am self-love. I'm going to take self-action. I'm going to call Operation Hope. I'm going to download the Hope in Hand app. It's free. I'm going to go on the website, operationhope.org. It's free. I'm going to find a location, 190 locations across the country near me, or do the virtual location through Hope in Hand. I'm going to make an appointment within the next week. And I'm going to have them attack my credit score, my budgeting issues, because I guarantee you, if you're arguing with your mate, it's about money. I'm going to have them attack my fact that I got too much month at the end of my money. So either we're going to help you reduce your costs or help you create more revenue, right? If you want to build wealth, we're going to give you a strategy for that. We're going to become your private banker for free. Just take action, and then tell all your friends to tell 2 friends to follow Monique.
Amen. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. There's nothing I can say at the end. Everybody who's heard this knows what it's worth. And the only thing they can do now is share it with somebody else, because we want everyone possible to get this information. We appreciate you. And I hope I can consider you a friend of the show, because we need updates to stay. We need guardrails for the right path. But your time is invaluable. So thank you so very much for everything.
Thank you for all you're doing. It's not civil rights or civil rights. It's what you and Crump are doing, and you and Maxine Waters and so many others. It's civil rights and silver rights.
And thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Love and light.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
The first 25 of you to DM me will get the books. The first 25 of you to send your information into my DMs will be the list of people who I send to get the books. And then the next 25 of you will be the ones who get the free license for 6 months. And if you're in that first 25, specify if you would prefer license to book, book to license. If there's enough of you that we can divvy it up that way, we will. And the information that he shared about the money that you can save for earned income credit through your EIC and through the stimulus money for your children, I'm going to drop that in the notes section when the full show is posted on YouTube. But please do, as soon as this comes out, share it with your friends. It'll be out today. The YouTube link will be up today. You can go to operationhope.org. You can get the phone number there. You can get more information. I'm stupefied by the incredible value add that this 30 minutes was, not just for you all's life, but for my life, because we all need the help. So something weird's going on with my light. I will make sure that all of that is up and available for you today. And as always, if you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, do it today. That's where the full show is going to be. That's Monique Pressley TV. If you know that you got a value add out of this information and you want to support our show, please do. The link tree in my bio on Instagram is where it lists the ways you can support: through Cash App, $MoPress, MoPress, through business PayPal, which is Monique Pressley Enterprises, and through subscribing on Patreon. You can support in any of those 3 ways. Whew. Aren't you thankful? I know I am. And that's it. That's all I have for today. I hope that it all made sense, and we will continue to journey on together. God bless you. Bye-bye.